Mr. Wick. Good evening. It's been quite a while. I assume you would like a tasting. Excellent. I believe you most likely have a very busy evening ahead of you. Of course. I am well aware of your fondness for antiquity, rarity, and utility when it comes to your TCG collection. So, I will start with the best. I am aware of your fondness of the base set 2 varietals, but I can wholeheartedly recommend the base set 1 variations. Allow me to introduce base set 1, number 4, Charizard. A beautiful holographic Pokemon card. This fire type rare number is quite the rare and useful addition to someone looking for quite the robust selection on an evening such as this. As you can see, a slightly subtle holofoil print in the back, as was customary at the time of base set 1 release. At 120 hit points, base set 1 Charizard number 4 carries quite the heavy load in terms of damage taking capabilities within your deck. At a fire type, it can be paired with even the hottest of decks, requiring no other energies be present within it. Let's start with its Pokemon power. If fire type utility is the name of your game, then look no further than Energy Burn. This wonderful ability can allow the user at any point during their turn to turn any energy attached to Charizard into fire type energy, which will become quite useful when looking at the second ability, Fire Spin, notably requiring 4 fire type energies. This ability deals a whopping 100 damage and does require the user to discard 2 energy types to utilize it. So, stocking up on energies early in the battle when Charizard is at its previous evolutionary stages, Charmander and Charmeleon, is paramount to success. But allowing any energy to be attached and then transferred to a fire type via Energy Burn is quite useful for the 4 fire specific energy requirement. With a weakness to water, one must be very leery of those misty decks out there, or its nemesis Blastoise. At 3 energy requirement for retreat, one better plan on ending one's opponent if putting Charizard into play, or have the appropriate energy required to retreat from battle. At level 76, this Pokemon is very capable of even the most heavy of loads. Such a workhorse can carry even the weakest of decks to quite a satisfying conclusion. Very well, I will set it aside for you. If something more bold and distinct is what you are yearning for on this evening, might I shift your attention to something from the Wizards of the Coast promo selection. May I tempt you with promo 34, Entei. I know you will appreciate the full card holofoil. As you can see, we have a custom galaxy style print on that full card holofoil, down to the very trim border yellow, as you so customarily enjoy. We also have a nice, pristine, and untouched profile picture of the Pokemon with the holofoil only bled through on the actual informational portion of the card. As you can see there, it is quite bold and quite distinct, like I said. At 80 hit points, promo 34, Entei can deal with quite the formidable opponent, but is not at the same robustness as the base set 1 Charizard. But what makes this very interesting are the abilities matched with the protective flame attack. Let's start with your abilities. The Pokemon Power Bolt allows Entei to be discarded back into the deck whenever damage is dealt to it. Now, that is assuming that Entei is not knocked out, of course, but if an opponent deals damage to Entei and it does not knock it out, you may discard Entei and any cards attached to it back to your deck. Now, what allows this to be very useful is if you can lead off with this Pokemon, or perhaps replace a knocked out Pokemon that has just met a swift end at the hands of your opponent. Placing Entei into play with its 3 energy requirement allows one to take quite a quick jab and powerful strike with Protective Flame, dealing a nice and hefty 50 damage. And on the returning turn, if you are damaged, you can simply retreat the Pokemon back to your deck to be drawn again. This Protective Flame also protects your benched Pokemon from any damage on your opponent's next turn after the use of this attack. Very useful. At level 37, this Pokemon is quite strong enough to deal with most incoming damage, but light enough on its feet to stay nimble during battle. A weakness to water can be expected with such fire-type Pokemon, but what you will be very pleased with is the singular retreat cost. Now, you may not make use of this retreat cost given the Bolt ability, but it is there nonetheless for your different strategies and course of actions, of course. As you can see, the nice fire type motif can be seen in the background of the Pokemon art, which I know you do enjoy attention to detail. All of these cards also come with a double bonded protective shield, very capable at deflecting most projectiles and dealing with incoming penetration. Now, this is fully waterproof except for the top loading portion of the card. This protects any of the edges of your card from wear and moisture if in the event that your hands become quite wet. But I would try to refrain from such damaging behavior around such expensive items. Now, we have your 2 main attractions for the beginning of your night, the main course, have you? What about something a little bit more precise, clean? Shall we delve into the later portions of the original sets? Introduce to you fossil number 9, Kabutops. This wonderful and precision-based fighting type Pokemon is a staple feature of the fossil set from the original classical era. I know you are very fond of the straightforward attacks in times of stress and high frequency battles. So I know you will be drawn to and appreciate the sharp sickle attack for a quick and clean 30 damage with only a modest 2 fighting type energy requirement. At 60 HP, I must warn the user to be quick with your decisions using this Pokemon, as 60 HP is not the highest of a stage 1 Pokemon such as this. I'm sorry, stage 2 Pokemon. Please forgive me for that. But what will help alleviate those concerns, however, is the Absorb ability. Now, Absorb allows one to deal 40 damage to the opponent and remove up to equal to half the damage done, and remove that damage from Kabutops itself. This allows a slight self-sustainability to be applied to your blade-wielding Pokemon. This is a great choice for those evenings where one must get up close and personal with one's attacks, which I know your line of work can lead to very substantial examples of such situations. A weakness to grass does leave one vulnerable to such decks such as Koga, Erica, or any of your Venusaur builds, so I must warn you to stay on your toes and make quick work of any attempts to capitalize on your weakness. A retreat cost of 1 once again will allow a quick entry and retreat into battle, and at level 30 this Pokemon is built for almost any type of situation. As you can see, the holofoil is quite nice with a simple blend of orange and reds in the background and a very striking and capable positioning of the Pokemon itself in the portrait. I think you will be quite pleased with the simplicity and utility of this Pokemon for even your most challenging engagements. Perhaps a mid-evening advancement in energy and environment requires something a little bit more loud, bold. May I introduce you to Black and White Promo 75, Metagross. As you can see, this Pokemon boasts a Plasma Freeze pre-release event stamp on the card, signifying to any of your opponents that this card is not to be trifled with and must be taken with the utmost seriousness. Now, Metagross is quite the advancement in card eras, but I know one will find that quite challenging and enjoyable at the same time. Plasma Freeze Metagross can be seen with the affiliation of the Team Plasma insignia here with the shield in the background of the informational panel of the card. Quite the bold and loud design feature with the colors in the background and the aggressive nature of the Pokemon itself. As you can see, I know you will very much enjoy the custom blue border on this card. Quite thin on the edges, but very distinct among other cards of this set. Now, let us get to the main attraction. At 140 HP, Metagross will allow you to really attack aggressively without fear of a quick defeat at the hand of a pesky opponent. As you can see, we have a nice Pokemon ability below. Plasma Search. This might be used as a staple of a Team Plasma built deck, given its ability to allow the user at once before the attack to search their deck for one Team Plasma Pokemon and add it to their hand. This becomes quite useful when running multiple of this card or others of the Team Plasma designation. This might be just the captain type Pokemon to really lead the charge of your most formidable Team Plasma decks. As you can see, that double bonded ballistic capable shield on that card will allow it to hold up to even the most aggressive of attacks. Its damage dealing attack, Mind Bend, does a modest 60 damage, but I must warn you, does require 4 energy to use the attack, which is quite stingy for this amount of damage, given that you can do 50 with your Entei. Now, what is very interesting about this attack, though, is the ability to confuse the opponent on use of this attack. I perhaps would suggest using this as more of a utility Pokemon, a tank of sorts that you can use to soak up damage and collect the rest of your heavy-hitting Team Plasma Pokemon. Perhaps a heavy-hitting basic that you can gear up while Metagross searches for and absorbs damage. I do say this will make quite the impression on any opponent, so unfortunate to run into you on an evening such as this. I do say that perhaps a delicate and lightweight option be utilized for sort of an appetizer for the end of your evening. Don't you agree, Mr. Wick? Of course. Look no further than the newer, but equally enjoyable HeartGold SoulSilver addition to the Pokemon card game. HeartGold SoulSilver Triumphant number 7, Porygon Z. As you can see, quite the delicate design of this Pokemon, and a slightly smaller addition to the portrait here, leaving a very large room for the holofoil section. I know you are a fan of inclusions of the video game aspects into these cards, so I know you will very much enjoy the dubious disc featured. As one is well aware, is the requirement for evolution from Porygon 2 to Porygon Z. Now, at 110 hit points, Porygon Z is quite the hardy Pokemon for such a heavy hitting option. It can stand up to even the most aggressive of damage dealing Pokemon, assuming that they are not of the fighting type. I am afraid with a ×2 to weakness, it can get quite brutal if matched up against a Lucario deck, for example. Now, its Pokemon Power Dimensional Transfer is quite the interesting card. It allows the user to regain a discarded trainer card from their discard pile and add it to their hand during their attack or during their turn. Have you? This becomes very important when utilizing powerful trainer cards in their playstyle. And after one has been discarded, Porygon Z can very dubiously take those cards and find them back into your hand to be utilized again. Now, you may notice the 80 damage ability of Suspicious Beam B. This beam does a whopping 80 damage for just a very modest 3 energy requirement. This ability, I must warn you, however, has some very suspicious caveats. This ability, if Porygon Z does not have any rainbow energy attached to it, it does 20 damage to itself and is also confused after the use of this attack. So I must encourage you to utilize at least the minimum of 4 rainbow energies in your deck if utilizing Porygon Z. But if said strategy is utilized well, there will be no problem dealing maximum damage while also taking a very hefty amount of damage. The HeartGold SoulSilver Triumphant number 7 is a fan favorite of those who like to make a quick impression in a very digital age. Of course. Is that all that I can help you with, Mr. Wick? You, I believe, have all of your courses covered for quite a substantially enjoyable meal. Is there anything else I can do for you? Dessert. Of course. Look no further than Gym Heroes number 12, Rocket's Moltres. This fiery card will give even the blandest of evenings quite the kick towards the end. I do recommend leaving this card till the dessert portion of your evening due to its light 60 HP, but as you will see, this dessert has a long-lasting appeal. With the Pokemon Power Rebirth, this card is placed back into your hand upon being knocked out. So, not only does it return itself to you, but unlike your Entei from earlier, it does not go back into the deck. It goes back right in to your hand, allowing to be reborn into play again. And as a basic designation, this Rocket's Moltres is quite capable of perpetually being used in your battle from your hand to play over and over throughout the evening. Quite the long-lasting dessert and spicy addition to any playstyle. At 3 fire energy requirements, Firewall does a very nice 40 damage. Yes, this card is quite the bold choice for anyone wanting to burn an opponent on a foolish play. If such a hot addition to your deck is utilized, one is recommended to induce sort of a palate cleanser, something that can be utilized with even the most variety-filled deck. And I am speaking, of course, of Neogenesis number 9, Lugia. This fan favorite is designated as such for a reason due to its beautiful nature, as you can see with the hollow foil pattern, a nice galaxy pattern for you tonight. We have a 90 HP, making it quite powerful for this era, and as you can see, a match have you with 90 damage capabilities. We have Elemental Blast, requiring, however, a fire, water, and electric energy, but someone as resourceful as you, I dare say, will have no issue fulfilling such requirements. Elemental Blast does require the discarding of one of each of these energy, however, so I do recommend making your attack quick and making sure perhaps this is a finisher of a powerful Pokemon, such as base set 1 Charizard, as you selected so wisely earlier. This card will fulfill even the most demanding requirements. As you can see, I know you will quite enjoy the attention to detail here with the electric, fire, and water representations in the artwork of the card with that beautiful yellow, red, and blue. This will no doubtably end your evening on a high note. Now, is there anything else I can do for you, Mr. Wick? Of course. I thank you, as always, for your support of our fine establishment. And before you go, I would like to invite you back for an additional tasting if something a little more covert or subtle is ever on the menu. Of course. Oh, and Mr. Wick, do enjoy your evening.